Welcome back. This is Claude on Record. I recorded this podcast on Halloween Day. Happy Halloween for those of you who celebrate. And if you're hearing this podcast after Halloween, well, it means I was late. So in any case, happy Halloween, belated or otherwise. The reason I'm recording this podcast is to give an example from my own personal life very recently, within the last few days, of how creating experiences for yourself can lead to really good creative ideas in either art, music, writing, whatever it is you're doing. If you just sit at your table, your studio, or, in your room, chances are you won't get as inspired as if you would be if you, for example, get in your car and drive somewhere like 72 miles away to an abandoned town, shoot some footage, and then go back with that to see what can come out. I believe that having experiences is the best way to get ideas. And ever since I've been practicing this, I am never short of ideas. And by the way, I am not bragging in any sense of the word. I'm telling you the truth. There are times where I want to shut down the ideas. I don't want to hear them. I don't want to think about them, but they just keep coming. And that's because I've been having such amazing experiences and really being in the moment with these experiences that I think the ideas just keep flowing. And so while they're flowing, I'm going to keep working. And even if they're not flowing, I'd still be working. But to give you an overview, I'm going to talk about this experience that I had in a place I call Neverville, which is an abandoned town 72 miles away from my house. It really doesn't have a name, but it's on the outskirts of a town called Adelanto, California. So if you're liking these podcasts and this is making some sense and you're really enjoying it, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell so that you get a notification. Tell people about it, spread the word, share it, because if you do, it gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling to make more of them, and I really want to. It's part of my life now to share this stuff with you, and I like it. So please subscribe, and let's go. I've been asked more than on one occasion as to whether I will detail my writing process or film while I'm in the middle of a writing process. And I think it's a wonderful request, and I really appreciate those kinds of requests and comments, of course. However, I want to be clear about something. It's not easy for me to share works that are in progress because, obviously, I make mistakes, or I may think the lyrics are really good and 3 days later come back and find out, wow, that's really shit. You see, I'm really hard on myself. I'm harder on myself than most people would be in my shoes, if that makes any sense. And it probably doesn't, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, I tend to be really hard on myself. Now, that said, my philosophy on recording is completely polar opposite and runs counter to what I just said. In other words, I'm a perfectionist. I want things to be right when you hear them. On the other hand, I am not a perfectionist in the sense that when I record a piece of music, I feel I have to have 100 tracks and every single channel on my DAW has to be filled up with something, and everything doesn't have to have an effect on it or an EQ or a compressor. I am not that guy. I don't work that way. And I guess it's because I grew up listening to bands like the Beatles, the Kinks, and people like that, where in the really early days of recording, and I mean pop music, basically they ran a reel-to-reel. Someone did a count off, 1, 2, 3, 4, and boom, they go for it. And what comes out is a slice of time. And I really like that aspect of recording. Of course, I love to track things, and of course I sequence. I'm an electronic musician, so obviously I'm going to do those things. What I like is a lot of chance stuff. So for example, instead of using an arpeggiator to go up and down, I usually hit random. That's one of the things I like to do. Another is that instead of arpeggiating a line, I might hit record in really slow, a really slow BPM, and play the notes one by one how I want to later speed them up, which may be completely mad, but that's how I like doing it. It gives me a sense of ownership, like I played that. The machine didn't do it for me. Now that said, that doesn't mean I don't like the machine to do things for me. I also like math. So sometimes I will set certain parameters so that a certain clip will play, and when it's done, it'll randomly pick another clip that I've made. The reason I do it is because it varies the different sounds that I can get. So, in a verse, you might hear like all these weird blippy things going on, and you'll realize, hey, they didn't repeat. Even though the pattern was repeating, the actual way the notes are hit are not repeating. So that's another thing that I like to do. Which leads me to a recent experiment that I did that soon you'll get to hear. I'm not done with it yet, but it's a work in progress. But since the question was asked about the process, I thought I would share how a new song that I'm working on is turning out. I didn't have a song idea in mind, which goes back to the last podcast where I told you about sitting down and just working on something. And I don't mean just sit down and work on stuff when you're bored to death. No, you have to kind of set your space up for yourself so that you will feel inspired. Believe me, I know it's not easy. But in this case, what I'd done is I'd taken my newest little hound, which I like to call it that. It's the Volca Modular. And what I was doing was I was sitting in my kitchen trying to come up with little patterns that I could draw it to. And nothing was really happening. I was going to give up. And right before I decided to give up, I decided to look on YouTube for a video that showed me how to split the voices up so that I would have two voices playing. Being new to modular, this was, a different territory for me. So I was messing around and I finally got something. And it was so cool that I decided, you know what? This is great. I can actually make a song out of this. Now, the problem with the modular, of course, this particular modular, is that I have yet to sync it up to anything. So to get a good recording of it was almost not going to happen that night. Learning how to synchronize it to my computer, that hasn't happened yet. I hadn't learned how to do it. I was only on day 4 with the machine. So this crazy idea came over me that instead of hooking it up to the computer or instead of me recording it, why not just play it back, listen to what it's doing, and come up with words on the fly? So I sat down for a while and I worked that out. I kind of had a melody in my head, but I didn't really have any words. So I decided that to be inspired, what I would do is the next day, I would pack up my car and drive to a town that I visited before. It's an abandoned place. It's a very scary place, honestly. And over the years, I believe it's gotten scarier. It's about 72 miles from my house. So it takes a good hour and something to get there, depending on the traffic. And of course, I live in California, so you know what the traffic is like. And if you don't, it sucks. But anyway, I got into the car and I drove to this town. So what I figured I would do was I would drive the 70 miles, take a whole bunch of random footage, and let the footage itself inspire me to record a song using that little pattern that I had come up with on the modular and see what happens. So I had a small little rig set up with just a microphone, my Volca, my K-oscillator, and a small passive mixer. And I managed to test everything really quick and see that it all worked. And I decided to film and go for it. Now, what's interesting is that I actually did get a good recording of the song. So in my way of thinking, what could I actually do to make it better? Now, obviously, yes, I can retrack everything and I probably will. But in this case, I decided to take the file from the video, import it into my editor, and jam along with it. This is something I never do. New territory, but I decided that by doing this, I would be experimenting with the recording techniques in a way that I hadn't in a long time, which was to do everything in real time. So I decided no MIDI, nothing, just hit record, see what happens. And so that's what I did. And I was really happy with the results. So I guess what I'm trying to say with this podcast is that it's not about how complicated something is that you're creating or how simple. What it's about is you enjoying the actual creation, being in the moment. And what I really found interesting to me was that this stuff just took me into a zone. And I don't even know how I got the lyrics I got. I don't know exactly what the song is about yet. I think it has something to do with losing a few friends and my mom. I'm pretty sure that that's what it has to do with, because there's some lyrics about time and, what's going to happen next, that kind of stuff. I don't know what I'm talking about. At any rate, the complexity of a project doesn't make it better. What matters the most is that you yourself feel happy about that. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is this. By going to that location, I saw images that inspired words. By going to that location and shooting, I not only had footage to do a video or something, but I had images I could look at that would also give me ideas for lyrics, or maybe ideas for sounds, which by the way it did. And this is part of something that I have termed experiential ideas. It means that you go out and you experience something, and based on that experience, then you come home and you do your work. I find that that's a very easy challenge. So, for example, you can say, I'm going to wake up at 3 and watch the sunrise. And then after the sunrise, I will go and draw. And of course, you can't get the images that you saw out of your head, so chances are you're going to draw something with warmer colors. Or maybe you're going to find, if you're playing a piano, that you're going to play a song that's a little, I don't know, warmer, sunnier. Or it could be the polar opposite. You may come home all grumpy and mad that you had to get up and nothing happened, and you write the most darkest song you've ever written. My point is this. By having experiences, you will have better ideas. So if you enjoyed this episode, once again, please subscribe, hit that little bell, and please spread the word. You can always find me at mpop and all the different social medias. Okay? See you next time.